So the hidden gem this week is Morph.
Yep.
Right? And there are or were two Morphs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's Morph 616,
Okay.
which was the changeling first, and then he got turned in, renamed
That's
into
right.
the Morph, right?
Yeah.
So he had the ability to psionically change his body, right, to any person or even animals, right? He had limited telepathic and telekinetic ability, which got enhanced by Xavier, right? So then he got killed off or so on and so forth, which, well, I'm jumping ahead. So now we get into the X-Men 97 Morph, which is actually from 1081 Earth 1081.
Okay.
Right? Now, this Morph is what's being portrayed most recently.
Okay.
So this guy, he was born, the way they described him, as a white lump of goo flowing like mercury.
Okay.
Right? So I don't know why. I'm assuming the white lump part is what, separated him from the regular water break. Because if you got some mercury flowing out of your body, I would assume you just discard it.
Yeah.
But, apparently not.
That can't be good.
So anyway, he had his powers and was aware of and able to use his powers basically since birth. More like the Omega level mutants, right? He was able to do it from birth. He didn't need some catalyst when he was 15, some fire, some boyfriend, some girlfriend.
He just
some
already knew.
He just already knew.
Gotcha.
But the thing about it is that, they list him as being like an actor, right? Which of course he has to be. If he's taking on the personas or the likenesses of other people, acting has to be a part of his life, right?
Yep.
But also one of his things was because he looked like this, his mother, he always wanted to please people. He was like a people pleaser. So he was like funny, joking around kind of a deal. So his parents would prefer him to look more human. So to please them, right?
Yeah.
He would look more human throughout his life than this mercury goo stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, he has the power to basically shape shift. And that means that he could change into the likeness of any person or animal and some things. So not only is he capable of shape shifting, but he can also take on the powers and some abilities of the people that he changed into. So, like on X-Men 97, I'm messing around on my tablet, right? And all of a sudden the Hulk comes up. And I'm thinking this is like a cameo like they did with Captain America and Spider-Man and Doom.
Yep.
But no, it's Morph. He basically turned into the Hulk. Now, and then he's like knocking the Sentinels' heads off and stuff. So, what does that mean? When he transforms, he can take on some of the abilities of the people that he transforms into. So that means that he's pulling, like the Hulk, mass, because he can become bigger, smaller. He's pulling mass extra dimensionally to increase his power, right, and his size. And then he's also, now I'm not saying that he has unlimited ability like the Hulk, which would make him almost Omega level. But even though his power sets is almost kind of like on the cusps of being Omega level, because he can assume the likeness of anybody and pretty much some of their power sets. For example, he can obviously, transform into the Hulk and have some power.
Right.
I think the 20-ton range, which is more than enough to knock a Sentinel's head off. He can mimic Xavier, but not his telekinetic powers. He can mimic Wolverine, even down to the claws, but his claws aren't in true adamantium. He can mimic Captain America's shield, but not the properties of the adamantium vibranium, mixture. So he can do some things, but not to the full extent, right? So he can change into animals, so on and so forth. So he has superhuman strength. So around 20 tons, naturally, he can, pull extra mass or power.
Yeah.
So that is, he can do 20 tons. Durability, obviously, speed. He's mimicked Quicksilver, right? So he can do his speed stuff. Flight, he can fly. I think normally like 40 miles an hour, but he can also duplicate the Angel his wings and fly at whatever speeds, he was able to. So, so we got the superhuman speed from Quicksilver and elasticity. So, like, if he duplicates the Blob, not only does he have his mass and his capabilities, but pretty much Morph is invulnerable to any projectile, any man-made projectile. Projectile, like
all of them,
like the Blob, right?
Yeah.
So he can mimic, which actually makes him pretty impressive. Now, the other thing is that they made him non-binary. This Morph, or Morph 1081, Earth 1081.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because he can be anybody.
Right.
Right. So, but I'm assuming that, like Mystique, right? When he changes into a female, like, not only does the body change, the organs change, and then the DNA changes as well, because Mystique was able to transform from a male to a female and have a child.
Right.
Or no, she changed from a female, which is her typical form, to a male, which changed her organs, which also gave her the ability to birth or impregnate a woman. Right. Right. So I'm assuming Morph has that same capability.
Which wasn't that Nightcrawler?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, Nightcrawler was Mystique's child.
Yes.
As a result of the transformation.
Of her turning to a guy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, and that's something that, the whole non-binary thing makes perfect sense with Morph. Like, that's probably the best depiction I've ever seen on screen of that concept. You know?
Absolutely.
Dude, there, like you mentioned, like Quicksilver. There was so many times through X-Men '97 where a character would pop up, and I'm like, where the hell did this guy come from?
Right.
Then I'm like, oh shit, that's Morph. Because sometimes he'd change off screen. So like, I think Quicksilver just came out of nowhere. I'm like, well, where the hell did Quicksilver? When did he join the fight? Right.
But I'm interested in this character, kind of like Gambit. I'm actually looking more and more into this character because, he really does have the potential to be either sub-Omega level or Omega level, depending on, because he's new. I think he was made for X-Men 97, and the writers,
original animated series.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but when the writers brought him in, they brought him in to replace Warpath, I think, which is a Indian X-Men superhero.
Yep.
And they knew they were going to kill him off, so they didn't want to kill off the only Indian American superhero character. So they substituted Morph for Warpath so they can then kill him off, which is weird. But a little backstory on him. Mother died of cancer when he was 15. They had to give him, because he was just born, right? They had to give him some kind of background. Mother died when he was 15. He was probably apparently like kidnapped by Sinister, became his bitch or whatever, and just kind of basically did some
always Sinister, dude.
Right. So basically did some uncle down the hall kind of stuff to him. Yeah. So he's all messed up. So his weakness is his psychology, basically. Yeah. So he's just kind of all over the place, which again it makes perfect sense for this character.
Exactly. Yeah, I've always been a Morph fan, and I forgot that he was originally Changeling in the Changeling, however the hell you say it.
Right.
But my first introduction to him was the original animated series, where in the first episode, he's you see that he has a really close bond with Wolverine.
Right.
And then in the second episode, he's killed by the Sentinels. And originally, that death was meant to be permanent. But because of how popular the character was, they ended up bringing him back. And, you're talking about the Sinister part in the animated series, the second season, Morph comes back as a villain. He's got, like, black circles around his eyes, and he's kind of possessed by Sinister. X-Men thought he was dead for the whole first season. And then he ended up coming back, rejoining the X-Men, and now we get the version we have in 97. But it kind of reminds me of, like, Harley Quinn, a character that was created for an animated series and then became so popular that it's now been now not to the same level, but I'd love to see Morph in live action.
Oh, absolutely, because he could do so much. And he fills that gap for all the other stuff. Because they're still nerfing Jean,
right?
With her powers and stuff. You got the whole Madeline thing going on. So they what's his face, Sunspot. They haven't brought him up to speed yet. So he's a very good filler for a whole bunch of stuff. And I would love to see, if he could. Can he duplicate multiple powers? Kind of like what's his face, Legion.
Oh yeah.
Can he metamorphosize into a hybrid of multiple powers? Things like, and can he naturally use those powers to the full extent? So I'm definitely going to do a little bit more deep diving into this character.
Right.
But he's very interesting.
Yeah, because there has to be some type of limit.
I'm sorry, they.
Yes, they. Oh, true. Yeah, there you go. Look at that, dude. You're up with the times.
I'm trying.
You're woke, Adrian.
Is that what that means?
Yeah, it means you just I don't know. It changes all the time. Who knows?
Whatever.
But yeah, dude, Morph, cool character. Again, like I said, love to see him on screen. And throughout, I think that's been one of my, like I mentioned, X-Men 97. I mean, I love the show.
Sure.
But one of the highlights have been just seeing him pop up as these different characters, because it's not a true cameo, but dude, it was cool seeing a version of Hulk jump around and knock the head off some Sentinels, or Quicksilver. Right. I mean, there's so many, and I'm trying to remember. There was so many. I feel like every episode he popped up as somebody else.
But it's also cool to see somebody that changed that transformation. Unlike, because I think they wanted to make a version of something from a DC character, but they had already chosen that name or something like that. But it's also good to see somebody that can do a true transformation. Unlike, what's the kid on Teen Titans, the green one?
Oh, Beast Boy?
Beast Boy.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, actually, now that you actually say the name, it actually makes sense. He cannot transform into people. He can transform into animals. Right. And he's always green. So it's nice to see a cleaner version of that.
Yes.
And having him land in the X-Men is perfect. Because you got all kind of abilities and capabilities within the X-Men, which goes back to your point. X-Men has the capability to be so much bigger than the Avengers.
Absolutely, dude. I found just a few, and I'm sure there's more we're missing, but these are just some of the characters that Morph has morphed into. So I did that? Morphed into, right? Archangel, there was an episode where he picks up Wolverine, the Blob. He shows up as the Blob in one. Lady Deathstrike in another. Colossus in one, and Psylocke in one as well.
He's also imitated Professor X.
Right? Yep. Quicksilver, which we mentioned.
So I mean,
and then Hulk. Did you wear the hat because of the show? Is that?
I did not. Yeah, okay. However, I just thought it was cool.
Yeah, black on black, and Adrian, where everybody watching could have the same shirt as us if they went to onlycomicsmerch.com.
Right, and hats. And coffee mugs.
Yes.
And other things.
They do not come with coffee, though.
They do not come with
obviously, because we know how that goes. But yeah, I think he's been fun, as a character, and it's been a little kind of nice treat to see some of these cameos. And, but what I'm intrigued about with this character now, even, learning more about him, is what is that level, like, because he cannot, and it's been obvious, he can't, duplicate the powers to the full extent, or he would just turn into Magneto and kick Magneto's out. You know what I mean? Like,
True.
So there is some limit, but what is that,
Right. And like the Phoenix,
I
mean, he can change his body to look like Jean Grey.
Right.
But, can he harness any of the powers of the Phoenix? Things like that. But what's also cool about him is that he has that comic relief. Like when Rogue and Magneto was getting together, and he was messing with what's his face about Rogue with the danger room.
Gambit, they're like they're in here every time.
So he's like, oh, it looks like they got the whole room tied up for the next week or something. So they needed something like that, and he's a perfect pairing with Wolverine, who's always an ass, right?
Right.
So you got this this kid, this character who's like the opposite of the Wolverine, and they're best buddies. So that's cool too.
Yeah, it is a nice little dynamic.
Yeah.
Dude, Rogue and Magneto had more Danger Room sessions than Giselle had with her karate instructor.
Right.
It was up there, dude. It was a lot.
Right. But I think Rogue is the black belt, though. Unlike Giselle.
Yeah, exactly. We also saw him show up as Sinister in this most recent episode of X-Men. So one thing about, I guess, when he turns into these individuals, he doesn't, like, when Rogue absorbs your powers, she gets, like, memories and all kinds of things. Morph doesn't.
Right.
Because he he was portraying Sinister, but even Bastion was like, dude, Sinister don't care about anyone but himself.
Exactly.
Like I knew it was you from the beginning, you know?
Right. So, which is where the acting comes in, I guess.
Yes.
Right? So he has to have observed you in order to properly portray you.
Right.
Now, if you just want to duplicate somebody walking on the street, and the only thing he wants to give you is an impression that that person is there, then sure, he doesn't have to say anything, act out, or have seen you in the past in order to truly portray you. But yeah, and Bastion like called him out immediately.
Yes, absolutely. Well, dude, another great hidden gem as always, Adrian. Morph. Shit, we're talking a lot of X-Men stuff. Right. I'd love to see him as one of the characters featured in the MCU X-Men movie.
Yep.
You know,
I hope they can also come out with, and the reason I'm saying this is, well, let me say this first. I hope they come out with some version of Alpha Flight. And the reason I even bring up Alpha Flight is because one of Morph's kind of weaknesses is that he produces a lot of pheromones.
Okay.
So even though he changes to anybody, people like Wolverine, Sasquatch from Alpha Flight, they smell him.
Oh, yeah, they can tell.
Right.
Yep.
So that's his kind of weakness.
Yeah. Dude, speaking of that, Wolverine's, sense of smell, that is something that we've not seen in live action done properly.
Right.
Like, I don't ever remember Wolverine or Hugh Jackman going around sniffing people. Not once.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But in the animated series or in the comics, you see it all the time.
Right. The whole sniffing thing.
Yep.
Oh, we got some guys behind the door.
Right.
Don't go through it because they got guns. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So a lot to be seen with Wolverine moving forward.
Right. I don't know. I think what they did in the animated series is kind of what they should do in live action.
Okay.
Because he's had his run with the X-Men. He's had his own run of movies.
Yep.
Right. So they should kind of like, not have him so prominent and then bring up other people.
Okay.
And I would love to see more of Morph. I would love to see more of Gambit. They killed him off.
Right.
Even Storm. Bring Storm up to her proper thing, and then put somebody in there that can actually play Jean Grey.
Just not the Halle Berry version.
No Halle Berry, and do a AI. What do they call it when they de-age you?
Oh yeah.
Of Famke Jensen.
Okay.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be cool. Yeah, absolutely. Someone in the comments suggested or asked, what would you think of Angela Bassett playing an older Storm? Like, I think she would kill it.
Oh, yeah. That'd be absolutely. I mean, since she's sunsetted on being the mother of T'Challa.
Yeah.
He died, and she was like, I don't want to play this role anymore.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that would be cool.
Yeah. But I do think they should, if we're doing X-Men from the beginning or new, we should cast somebody a little younger.
Right. So, there's plenty of actors and actresses. I've said this from the beginning. Let these old guys play. Sure, you can play an older Bruce Wayne, retired, not jumping out of jets. You can play. I think an older Superman would be cool.
Yeah.
And I think I saw in the Infinity.
Nick Cage back.
No, not at all. Cool. He's cool with Ghost Rider.
Yes. There you go. Perfect.
In the Crisis on Infinite Earths, the animated was it Max, right?
Yeah.
The first one. They had all the Supermans and all the Wonder Womans and all the other kind of stuff, and they were talking about how, so one Superman's talking to another Superman, hey, yeah, Wonder Woman is here, blah, blah, blah. And he says, yeah, we're long-lived, but Wonder Woman is immortal. Okay. So first of all, we, Superman, are going to see everybody we love die, right? But Wonder Woman is going to see us die. Right? So anyway, I don't know why I brought that up, but I thought it was cool.
It's because you're a wealth of knowledge, Adrian.
Oh, is that what it is?
The knowledge is deep, dude.
Drink from my fountain.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. Dropping knowledge bombs. That's what you're doing on this podcast. I don't even think we can't even call it a podcast. It's a show. Let's be honest.
You know what it is? It's fun.
It is.
That's what it is. There you go. It's all these things, but the underlying thing is fun.
Damn. Yo, like Son of Sekhmet said a few weeks ago, Adrian's on fire.
That's the way
Another one.